Aaron Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey everyone, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle here with you on a Monday night. I had to think for a minute. I've been doing this every night the last 10 days, I think, since Tuesday, I think a week ago Tuesday. And then throwing in a bunch of Facebook Lives at lunchtime too as well. So, wipe the sweat off my brow. So, anyway, I'm glad you can join me. You've come to the right place. I see some stars already in the house. Lindsay, I see you sent me, look like movie tickets. I don't know what in the world that thing is. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. So all of you folks that are sending me some love tonight on the Facebook app, I appreciate that. Yes, Jeanette, you did make it on time. You are not late to the party. So what is the party? The party is the AT party. And there is no party like an AT party because the AT party don't stop. You guys made that up, not me. But I tell you what, we're going to talk about some snow. And the snow won't stop. My goodness, I'm already over it. Did you just hear a weatherman just say he's over the snow? Yes, you did. Actually, I think I'm over it. You know, I've had it. We had a lot of events this winter, and I'm good. I really don't need any more, but we're going to get one more, and it's going to be a big one. So you come to the right place to get the details on it. So let's get on with the message at hand. So first off, on my website, aarontuttle.com, or my free weather app, AT's Weather to Go, you can look at the Oklahoma road conditions, and you can see the snow routes popped up. You're going to need those come Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday. You can see out there across the state as well. You can check on the actual road conditions and see how they're doing. You can see there are a lot of severe impacted roads there in orange. And if you click on some of these pictures, you can pull up some of the snowplow pictures or the truck driver pictures that are in the lane of traffic. They're trying to clean things for you. So here's a nice view here, 1 and 2. Going down through the highway. So that's always good to see if you're traveling, heading out the door. And you can also check out the actual individual metro areas for Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Lawton, Purcell, etc. And use some traffic cameras. And that kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Because that's probably the biggest question I get is how are the roads? I got to travel from point A to point B. And I'm always directing you back to this website so you can get that information very quickly yourself. Now, we are unfortunately seeing some power outages. OG&E is now up to 882 in its area. That includes southwest of Tulsa and also a little bit on the east, central, and west sides of the Oklahoma City metro area. Now, that unfortunately is not the only power outage list that we have. Here's from the electric cooperative members. And if you see this little pink here, orange colored county, it's McLean. They've got 508 without power. Up here it looks like Noble County, 64, just southeast of Tulsa. There's Muskogee at 3. So there are additional spots of power outages kind of scattered together, 697 total within that co-op. Now, the last thing here is, and this comes from Power Outage USA, and sometimes it's a little slow. I noticed on updating, but it's only got about 1,000 state outages for what it's worth. So if you don't have power, you're going to have to find a way to stay warm tonight. Either go see a friend or relative, have somebody come pick you up. If they've got all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, you can get around the snow pretty easily, especially now that the traffic has died down. So it's just you on the road, so you've got no one to blame but yourself if you act all kamikaze and lose control. Just take it slow. Okay, so let's latest look at the power outage situation. From what I've heard, no rolling blackouts are expected, and I have heard some differing opinions as to why we're even in this predicament. And one of those is OG didn't buy enough natural gas at the cheap enough price, and so if they try to buy it now at a spot price, they're going to pay an arm and a leg, and they'd rather not do that. Now, of course, that's true. I don't know, but that's just what some people are saying that monitors that industry, and I'm sure those costs will get passed to us anyway down the road. But Needless to say, there better not be any rolling blackouts around Oklahoma. If that's the case, then our infrastructure needs a severe overhaul, just like they do in Texas. They've been suffering all day today. But you look at temperatures out there across the state, and we are into the negative numbers, of course. We barely got out of the negative numbers today as it is. Here across Oklahoma City metro area, for example, it's -2 on the southeast side of town. It's -6 out toward Yukon and -8 in El Reno. So we're already dropping like a rock out there. And if you take a look at these dew point values, they're into the negative numbers all across the state. So here's your little tip for you can forecast here when it talks about an overnight low. Clear skies, light winds, you will fall down to this dew point temperature. Caveat to this, we have fresh snowpack. And what happens is, with a little less mixing, these numbers will actually fall a couple degrees more. So the lows tonight are going to be colder than these numbers that you see in some cases. And we're going to talk about that as well. So bundle up out there. Now there is just a light breeze, 5 miles per hour, something like that. And that just adds insult to injury, keeps those wind chill values into the negative teens for the most part. All right, now let's move on to the rest at hand. And let me jump to, let's do this first. There is a winter storm warning in effect here. All these little counties shaded in pink, which is pretty much all the state of Oklahoma, with the exception of here around Woodward, Gage, and Alva. You guys are still in a wind chill warning, but this extends all the way down to North Texas, into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Now, the storm system that has affected us has moved out. This little batch moving through right here, this is cloud cover, and it is vacating the premises. This last little bit of clouds moving through southeast Oklahoma, but the rest of the state is clear skies right now. And that is a key important factor. You can even see the lakes because they're warm bodies that show up on the satellite image. So you see the nice lakes out here in eastern Oklahoma and down along the river. And then even a few of those smaller lakes here in central Oklahoma. So we've got clear skies out there. That was one of the ingredients that we need. Now let's take a look up north. Dew point values here are in the mid-teens. Even some low 20s up here in North Kansas. Well, what will happen overnight as well, it won't be too much more of a factor because kind of what we have is what we get. But we're going to have a little bit of this. Cold air will ooze south overnight, even though there's not a big north wind to push it down. Arctic air likes to ooze. It just kind of creeps along the valleys and just propagates very slowly. So there might be a little added boost here to the negative numbers in the northern parts of the state from our neighboring buddies up there in Kansas. So we're not going to be getting any better overnight. The actual dew point temperature change, which is what we're curious about, has fallen 5 and 4 degrees here in Canadian County. It's fallen quite a bit. Look at the Panhandle. It's fallen 13 degrees already in just the last 3 hours. So that's a pretty dramatic fall in the dew point value, which means those temperatures are going to crater right along with it. So there's a look at the temperatures falling up here in the Panhandle. In the last 3 hours, it's fallen 10 to 13 degrees. Even here in central Oklahoma, we've fallen around 6 to 7 degrees here from Oklahoma to Canadian County. Tulsa, you've fallen about 4 degrees. Now, temperatures are in red. Green is the dew point value here on the Oklahoma Mesonet. Let me refresh this, and we'll see if they've changed any, and sure enough, they have. So we're now down to -12 for dew points out here in Canadian County and Southwest, and even north toward Guthrie and Stillwater, -13. These numbers aren't showing up in Osage and in Kate County. That's a shame. If they were, they'd probably be up around -13, -14 as well. So this is going to be the very cold spot of the state where you see these clusters of dew point values greater than -10. Oops, let me get you guys out here in northeast Oklahoma. So something like this is where you should find tonight's temperatures really bottoming out. It'll be a crazy pattern. A lot of the low-lying areas, a lot of the areas that are used to seeing cold nights anyway, are the ones that will suffer the most. And of course, all the fresh snowpack is going to add to it. So just get ready for a very cold night. So our next storm system, let's shift gears. This is the cluster of the models. It's lunchtime tomorrow, your Tuesday, and this period here is Thursday morning. So the bulk of our activity comes Tuesday afternoon through Wednesday at lunchtime, and then kind of just trickles off to not much after that. So what do the models think we're going to get as far as total amounts of QPF? About ½ an inch. So we're back up to about 0.5. It actually gets up to about 0.6 when all is said and done. So it's about 6/10 of precipitation. This is the short-term high-resolution models. Now, when they factor in what their snow ratio is, which they usually don't do a very good job at snow ratios, they're keeping it about 10 or 11 to 1. That comes out to just under 8 inches of snow here in Oklahoma City. And believe it or not, that actually might not be that far from the truth. So we're going to get another dosing of heavy snow in central Oklahoma and other parts of the state. I'll show you the snow map here in just 2 shakes. Here's a look at the upper levels of the atmosphere. You see the bright colors coming into the map. This is lift. This is where we get our energy that comes in to help produce the cloud cover and the snow. So this is Tuesday midday. This is Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening into Wednesday evening. Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning. You can see all the colors still kind of progress across the state. That's overall lift in the atmosphere. Here's Wednesday afternoon, the last little batch here from a little upper low that does kind of come across and strengthens a little bit during that time period, and that kind of scoots on by through Thursday morning and takes precipitation right along with it. When we look at the mid-level lift with this to try to time things out with precipitation, we start to get an early batch of it here. Now this will, first round, this is early morning, will evaporate, but it's going to help to generate the cloud cover and probably get a few flurries. Now by lunchtime it's going nuts here in central Oklahoma, but again I think a lot of this will be lost in evaporation, but we should start to see some light snow develop at some point after lunch, and that will continue to pick up and get heavier because you can see the lift is there in the mid-levels, and then it's joined by additional lift out here from the Texas Panhandle moving in, and even Dallas starting in Tuesday evening get some heavy lift going across, and this is through Tuesday night. And this is right here is Wednesday morning. So now most of the lift is now in northeast Texas and Dallas, up here in Oklahoma, Tulsa to the north and west. And then by the time we head into Wednesday afternoon, there's a few pockets of lift out there. Here's one last little hurrah. This is on the northern fringe of that upper level low. And you can usually sometimes get a burst of snow. So if this is the upper level low here, for example, you can get a burst of snow that wraps up around it in this quadrant. So we'll see if we can get a little extra snow for you guys up here in central Oklahoma from that as this system starts to depart Wednesday night and then actually weakens and fills in by Thursday morning. So it's kind of just in the right time for us. Now, there is one caveat to all of this, and with anytime you deal with upper lows, you're going to have a tendency to get a dry slot, which is going to help to cut down on the precipitation. So let's take a look at the moisture at 500 millibars. This is 18Z on Tuesday to 21Z. So you can see how we've gone from dry to quickly moistening things up. So we've gone from a humidity of 20%, which is bone dry, to now we're back into the upper 70s to 80s when we get into western Oklahoma. So that's how that atmosphere moistens up. And of course, all the green, you might as well just think snow when you see this map. Now, as we head into Tuesday evening, watch what happens right here. You see this little thing right here? This is the kind of stuff you have to watch for. See how it kind of zips through central Oklahoma? That may kind of kill some of the snow at that moment to kind of lessen it and create more flurries and maybe say a moderate snow rate. So you're going to have stuff like that that rotates through in this system. They're going to be very hard to narrow down the exact placements. Here's Wednesday morning, and here's a nice pronounced dry slot seeking into southern Oklahoma, stretching up along I-40 into eastern Oklahoma. And every 3 hours, it's a fluid environment, so the dry slots move around everywhere. Your goal is to never be under one for a long period of time, because that's really going to cut off your snowfall. Now, as we head into Wednesday afternoon late, you see this extra moisture that comes in right here? This actually wraps in and around with a little deepening of that upper level low briefly into central Oklahoma. So there right here is a great signal for a nice burst of heavy snow in central Oklahoma for late Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening, and that is going to help to add a little extra snow, I think, to the overall totals here, despite if we get some of that dry slot during the event or not. All right, so those are some of the mechanics involved with this event. Now let's take a look at how the models kind of produce the QPF for this. Very similar to the last one. Overall widespread, you see a lot of 0.3s, a lot of 0.4s, 0.5s, and there's just these little pockets of some heavy stuff that shows up depending on which model you look at, because they're never going to have a good idea as to exactly where that's located, but they do their best to show you that there is a trend there, that somebody is going to get quite a bit heavier on the precip than others, which means they'll get more snow than others, while the rest of us kind of get more of a uniform blend of amounts. So we looked at the NAM, 3 kilometers, did pretty good on this last event. Here south end of Oklahoma City, for example, we're at about 0.4 to 0.5 precipitation, and there's a hot spot down here in southern Seminole, north of Ada. My goodness, that's up around 0.8, and you would multiply this by a snow ratio to see how much snow you would get out of that. And actually, Let me see if this is on here, and there is. Let's take a look at the Kuchera ratio, and we'll see how well the model does. Now, average snowfall ratio on here is 10 to 1. This is going to say, let's see, let's go to, I'll tell you what, let's do it like this. Let's make this fluid, all right? So we're starting out, because the atmosphere is very dry tonight, obviously, at a 22 to 1 snow ratio. So if it were to snow, we would have to multiply whatever that QPF was times 22 to get the amount of snow that we have. But that dry air is going to kind of move off to the east as that moisture comes in from the south and west. So our snow ratios will change. So as we head into, say, midday tomorrow, our snow ratio is around 16 to 1. That's a good number to multiply by. It's not a 10 to 1. It's not a 20. But it's a 16. In the afternoon and evening, snow ratio is still holding around 16, 15, but out in northwest Oklahoma, up around 17. You can see how it changes. Here's a peak of a snow ratio of 21 to 1 up here in northwest Oklahoma Tuesday night, Tuesday evenings. That means some much higher snow ratios in northwest Oklahoma. So if they were to get the equivalent amount of QPF, they would be seeing way more snow than the rest of us, just based off of that ratio alone. All right, so the good news is that if you're a snow lover, snow ratios are good to get additional snow that we normally would see, given any other time of the year for us. It'll be, of course, more of a drier snow, more fluffy. It'll blow around a little bit easier, so it'll drift a little more. A little hard to measure still, just like the last one, just because of the drifting snow and the fact that it'll be so dry. Okay, so now let's get to totals. I know you're dying to know what's going on with that business, and we'll see how the models do. Before I get to snow, I do want to show you in Dallas as we head into, let's see what time. We're looking at Wednesday after midnight. You're going to start to see some light freezing rain move in, probably get a little bit of sleet before then. You might even have a little taste of snow before then as well. But you're going to have a mixed bag of a winter storm in Dallas-Fort Worth and points south and east. So Wednesday morning should be a nightmare for travel into North Texas just because of that fact alone. So be careful if you're watching me from down there and you're wondering what's going on. Like I said, the snowfall amount, models aren't too gun-shy or too gung-ho on the south side. They produce a little bit better to the north finally. At lunchtime today, I was talking about how they need to bump up the totals, and they finally did, up around 3 inches far north side of town around Plano, but on the south side of town only about an inch of snow. So the snow would come in, then the sleet comes in, then on top of that some freezing rain. So it's just a whole mixed bag Tuesday night for you guys, okay? All right, now let's get back into Oklahoma. Let's see where our snowfall is going to be for us. This is based off the HRR models. This is the best model we've got in theory for most instances and most situations. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but it's got us in a solid 6 inches here in Oklahoma City. It does have these little hidden streaks, though. You see that, how that just kind of pops up there? In just different parts here of west central Oklahoma. And it's not going to know exactly the pinpoint area where these are going to occur, kind of a generalized area. So this could easily be here in Oklahoma City, for example. But you can see how the model probably at some point is trying to insert some drier air. Remember how we showed you the 500 millibar pattern? There was at least some that moved through. And so this could be an indication of that in the model data. And then here, just with this system, the way it's situated, you get a burst of snow early on, but then it kind of dies out. So that higher snowfall ratio up here in northwest Oklahoma doesn't do any good if it's not snowing in that particular case. But it's got much higher snow amounts over here in McAllister, up to about 10 inches, with a nice heavy band here in southeast Oklahoma. And if we were to look at this on a flat planar view, some interesting things we can point out tonight in the model data. We have dew point values of minus 13, but as we go through time, these dew point values will saturate because we're getting that precipitation falling from the sky as we head into tomorrow. So dew point values will rise to around 11 degrees as we saturate things. This little blue represents the snow in the timeline from lunchtime through Wednesday morning. Actual air temperatures, it does have us getting into the low teens. Might be a little struggle. We're gonna match these dew points pretty good, and we may not come up that high. It's still gonna be a cold, miserable, brutal day. And then you can see the actual accumulation factor. It's going up to around 4/10 here on this particular plot for Oklahoma City, which equates to 6 inches of snow. So that's another way of looking kind of at the same data we just took a look at a minute ago. There's a lot you can look at on just one computer plot. Now this gets interesting. So this is my buddy Ryan. I said we'd had this conversation before. He generates computer maps for model data. And ironically, this is funny. I used to do the same thing back at Texas A&M in the mid to late 90s. And back then I was using the university to do it, and it was quite popular. And that was ahead of its time. It was new because the internet was new. So it was cool for meteorologists, right? Well, I never thought to try to make money off of that. I was just a kid in college playing around. Well, he was a kid in college playing around, but fast forward about 20 years later, or 15 years later, and he's like, I'm going to make some money out of this. So he did it. He makes some money out of this. He actually runs a site for that, which is good, man. Good for him. And he's able to open up all kinds of stuff that wasn't around back when I was doing this. But he has now been able to run a dynamic snow to liquid ratio. So a dynamic snow to liquid ratio, let me move this down so you can see the title, so you can see what I'm talking about. So the dynamic snow to liquid ratio is, as you can imagine, something that moves on the fly. So in other words, every hour, the model will look at how much precipitation is falling from the sky, estimate what snow ratio that should be, and then assign a snow value to it. Inch, 2 inches, whatever. Goes to the next hour. It checks to see if the ratio has changed, and then it figures out how much snow you should get. So this is a brand new approach to it. He just turned this on night before last, so we're going to see how well it does. But it's got 8 inches of snow widespread here across central Oklahoma, kind of east-west along the I-40 corridor, and then a nice dip down south to I-35 and that little sweet spot here southeast of Oklahoma City Metro, a little hot spot up here in northwest Oklahoma, just east of Woodward. Tulsa, unfortunately, in this model data, it's not all that great. It says about 4 inches of snow for you. But we're just going to see. It's a global model to do this. I'd like to see it done on our high resolution, but sometimes those high resolutions have this kind of stuff already built in, so it's not needed. But this is the brand new American model that's still in its beta test form, so it's just neat to see something to keep an eye on to see how well it does. Temperatures, by the way, of course, we talked about how they're going to bottom out tonight. Models are going about a minus 13 here in Oklahoma City. Now, if that were to get minus 13 or even minus 12, it would break the second lowest temperature on record. If it gets down to minus 17, that would be the ultimate lowest temperature in Oklahoma City ever, since 1899, I believe, is when that record occurred. So we have to get down to minus 17. I don't think we're going to get that, but I think we can get down to minus 13. But regardless, we're going to be up to, if we're lucky, 11 tomorrow. And then we're back in the single digits, maybe still some negative numbers on Wednesday due to the snowpack. Just depends on cloud conditions and the winds. And then daytime highs, by the time we head to Saturday, should probably just get around freezing, maybe a couple degrees above. And then Sunday looks like the breakout day. We're getting to the mid-40s, and then after that, things do look better overall. But I must caution you, though, we're still stuck in a chaotic pattern, and there are a couple of cold fronts that will come through before the end of the month. So some of these numbers here are in question, but we can take the next system later on as it comes. All right, so that was the latest I had with all of that. We can look at the NAM model to see how it did. Oh, and the new Europe and the new Canadian is in. Let's see what the Canadian did as well. Some of these models I haven't seen yet because they just finished rolling off the presses. And just always good just to see how they're doing with the different looks. So the Canadian model is also hinting there's going to be some drier entrainment in some of this, but it's still giving Oklahoma City a nice dosage of 6 inches, 5 inches on the northwest side of town toward Piedmont, and then down the south and southeast side of town around 6 inches with a hard spot there about 7 to 8 right around Oklahoma City, Will Rogers Airport area. It likes North Texas quite a bit as well on the Red River. Okay, so let's look at the Canadian. Let's take a look at the 3 kilometer NAM, and we'll see how well it does. It has that hot spot down here close to a foot in parts of southeast Oklahoma, so really not too far away from Oklahoma City, down around Ada, points north, Seminole County, Pottawatomie. Let's see, by the time you get to Tulsa, though, it's that drop off again, about 5 inches there, but a good solid 6 to 7 to 8 inches over central Oklahoma for Oklahoma City. So it looks like another good snow event for us. The only thing I can tell you is that you got to keep an eye on those dry slide features, because that can really hose you when it comes to overall totals. But a 6 to 8 inch forecast for central Oklahoma looks solid. I don't see why you differ from that. And there will be some spots, it's going to get more than that, of course. The models tend to favor this section down here, but some of the other data favors a little section out here to the west, where this model actually has the least amount of snow out in that area. Man, they ain't telling you. You want to talk about snowfall forecasting prediction, it is tough. A lot of times you just have to take a blend and call it good, because you could drive yourself crazy trying to follow around all these little trends, these little microclimate trends, and try to reduce totals over small areas compared to everywhere else. All right, I think that's all I wanted to show you for tonight. So, recap, if you kind of joined in late, our next, first off, temperatures tonight cradle down into the negative teens out there across a good chunk of Oklahoma. In some cases, be close to a record, at least the second coldest record, not the coldest, but the one above that. So there'll be several of those numbers out there tonight. Here from central Oklahoma and points north. Wind chill values obviously will be brutal. I didn't show you wind chill values tomorrow morning. Winds should be light, so they shouldn't be that much different. But let me just go take a quick look. The other issue I have is that the models really don't have a good grasp at what the temperatures are going to be in the morning. So what good is that going to do me? This is my face. Because when none of them know what's really going to happen, what do you show, right? Okay, so let's do this one. Oh, I'm getting some internet red light saying there might be a problem, so if my video starts to cut out a little bit, you'll know why. I may have to sign off pretty quick here, but minus 10 is the coldest, minus 13, minus 11 up here for actual air temperatures, and I think it's going to be a couple of degrees colder than that in this area. That's the closest I can find to reality. If we do factor in the wind, though, for tomorrow, even a light breeze is going to make a difference. So wind chills won't be as bad as they originally were advertised, but still minus 23 up here, minus 30 close to northwest Oklahoma and into Kansas, where the wind's probably a little stronger. But other parts of the state won't be as much of a factor because the winds will be pretty much very light and variable. All right, so that was a quick look just at your temperatures for your Tuesday morning. Now in the afternoon, they're going to rebound a little bit, so wind chill values will probably get close to being around 0 or above and along I-44 corridor and points south and east, but the rest of western northern Oklahoma is still going to stay below 0 as far as wind chill values go. Actual air temperatures, if things go well and we get lucky, 13. If they don't go well, we don't get lucky, we're probably topping out at 10 degrees. It's not a big difference, but it is what it is. So it'll be a cold day again tomorrow. All right, so that was the temperature deal. And then precipitation. Snow starts to move in by lunchtime across western Oklahoma, starting to move into central Oklahoma. So like as far as for Oklahoma City Metro, earlier model data had it right around noon. Later model data saying we're going to be a little dry. It's going to take a while to saturate that. So anytime's fair game from noon to 3 of when that stuff starts to quit evaporating and come all the way down the surface. And then once that happens, it's just going to keep picking up in intensity. So your drive time for tomorrow is going to be a mess. Just so you know, low visibility, probably already have a couple inches of snow on the ground, fresh snow. And then it just keeps snowing till Wednesday evening. There is some signs of a nice little burst of snow here for central Oklahoma. So that would definitely help us to reach that 6 to 8 inch mark of snow, which, by the way, I'm just look at something here real quick. Don't go anywhere. All right. Yeah, it's not worth showing. So widespread snowy amounts across the state, ranging anywhere from 5 inches on some of the lighter numbers to as much as a foot again, but the foot being a very small area in the southeastern parts of central Oklahoma, into southeast Oklahoma. Hot spot there. Otherwise, here across central Oklahoma, most of it's 6 to 8 on an average, which is a really good snow for us, by the way. Should be still kind of dry, maybe a little tad more moist than the last one, but not by much. Probably won't notice a difference. Dallas, if you head down there, we're dealing with sleet, freezing rain, and snow. So a nice winter storm for those folks. Tuesday night and a Wednesday morning. So that'll be a mess for travel down there. This is it. This is the last system. It's over by Thursday morning. It's completely out of the area. And we get to dry out and quiet and start to slowly melt things. We head into the latter part of the weekend. And it will take a while for all the snow to melt in the shaded areas. It may take a full 10 days to get every last bit of snow out where you have shade, nonstop. The rest of it will start to melt pretty quickly once the trend starts, and that'll be Sunday and Monday of next week. Then that's where we start to really lose a lot of it off the roads and etc. So that's good news. We're just not used to sticking around this long usually, or having these type of high amounts back to back. Let me think what else. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the weather side of things. If you find yourself in a situation with no power at home and you're stuck there, you can't get out or whatever reason, some of the tips we talked about was to place towels underneath like cracks in your doors or your windows. Close your blinds, close your curtains, close any rooms off that you don't need. Keep that heat centralized in one spot. Dress in warm layers. Make sure you eat and drink. Those are just some of the tips just to stay warm until power returns for you. If you do use a generator, make sure you know what to do, know how to use it. You can't leave them in your garage. Carbon monoxide poisoning will build up and come back into the house. You don't want that. So make sure it's outside. Plus, if you're going to backfeed the house, make sure you have that already. Make sure you know what you're doing. You don't want to get the line hot for crews that would work on it down the road. Let's see. Pets, bring those guys in. They're not going to like this cold. They probably won't survive the night if you stick them out there. You wouldn't. Frostbite happens in this particular case about 30 minutes or so make sure you stay bundled up if you have to be out tonight or tomorrow. Let's think here. What else? Faucets. I've read some of y'all reporting that you've left your faucets dripping, still froze over, especially those of you who have wells. Some of you saying just run them, and then they'll say, well, those freeze over too. I don't know what to tell you. Do what you got to do. Cover what you can cover. Keep the cupboards open, and then cross your fingers and hope that you're okay on that deal. Let's see. I did notice a lot of the ponds are frozen over. Even some of the lakes are frozen on the outer edges and stuff. Make sure the kids don't play on it. So tell them again. Even if you told them yesterday, they're kids. Remind them again. And tell them to stay off the ice. Not time for ice hockey down here. It's not thick enough. Let's see. Okay, pets, kids, elderly, homes if you got without power. If you're traveling in a car, all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive works really well in the snow situations. Rear-wheel drive is might as well not even bother. Front-wheel drive can work. There's still some vehicles that are made that way. I'm sure there are. There's all kinds of vehicles out there on the road, so I'm sure why not. But you got to be careful, and if you know how to do it, it's fine. Just watch out for the people around you because they may not. But you can get around town in this particular case. Now, with the blowing snow, reduced visibility, the traffic will be a nightmare, and it will take you a lot longer to get someplace. And if your car does break down for whatever reason, weakness in your antifreeze line, or your battery dies because of extreme cold, whatever it may be, you're out there in the elements, so make sure you're bundled up, protected. You got some snacks with you. You've got a way to flag people down. You've got prepared jumper cables, all that kind of stuff. I mentioned, should have had you bring it in for me, Jody. But there's a lithium-ion battery you can get that'll start your car. And those things will also charge all your electronics and stuff. And they're pretty cheap now. They're less than $100. And they'll start big vehicles. And they have little crimpers, little jumper cable type positive and negative claws. You can plug into that thing, stick around your battery, off you go. So you don't need to wait for somebody to give you a jump. That's a lifesaver. And those batteries, they stay charged. I charge mine about once every 6 months, just to top it off, and it never dies. So it's great, and I've used it a few times accidentally. I need it because I left the light on. I think 2 of those times. I forget what the third reason was. It drained the battery. I think the third reason was the battery just got old and I had to replace it. So it works really good. So those are a lot of the tips you can use. Make sure you tell people where you're going and what route you plan on taking. Especially, you're going to be going out in desolate parts of Oklahoma where there's not much but a farmhouse every 10 miles. So make sure you let people know where you're at, so in case you get some trouble. I think that's it, my friends. I can't think of much else. Let's see, I think she just went out there to see if she could find it. Ron says he already lost power for over 4 hours this week. Oof. Yeah, that's no good. That is nonsense. Even tonight I was wondering if I was going to have power. I'm glad I did, because I don't know what I would have done for this broadcast. But I'm going to give her a minute. I think she went out there to the car to grab it. And while she's doing that, let's go look at some of the new data that came in just from the different models. Let's see, I think who was coming in? The GFS. Let's just see what it did. See, every model is just a little different. It's got a hot spot close to a foot in the southern parts of the state. Oh, you did get it. Thanks. Oh, you're reading my mind. All right, so let me show you this, what I was talking about. So let me get off this deal. So first off, that's the old version of the American model. Let's take a look at the new version, the beta. Ooh, it's gone up quite a bit. It's back up to 9, close to 10 inches here. Even 11 on I-40 out west. Still kind of has that little hot spot down here in southeast, but not nearly as gung-ho about it. And in southern Oklahoma, it still likes that area too. And in Dallas, it does a tight gradient from south to north or west to east for you guys down there. What about ice? See if that's changed for that model. Now, it was never too gung-ho on ice for you. I think that's a mistake, but so I won't focus on that. But we can look at the snow. So that's pretty good. I like this. But still Tulsa, man. You guys are still right at that 5-inch. No matter what model I pick, you guys on the northeast side get about 5. On the southwest side, you finally get into some deep stuff. There's a hard line in the sand in northwest Oklahoma. Panhandle gets hardly nothing. But across the body of the state, man, this is a good snowstorm. So that's the latest look at the new version of the GFS. Let me see if my buddy's got his in yet with that dynamic snow ratio, because I don't know what the total snow ratio is used for the one I just showed you. Let's see. Alright, so this takes us to Wednesday at the morning hours. It does not include the rest of the snow on Wednesday, but it's already at 7 in Oklahoma City, 8 down south, and 10 out west on I-40. So that's kind of similar to the one we just looked at a minute ago. So how about that? Okay. So what I'm saying is it still looks like a good, decent snowstorm. We're just splitting hairs depending on which model we think has the better grasp on it. So I have something called a moto cord. And I think I got this off of Amazon. So when you open this up, this is going to fall out everywhere. But it's not packed like it should be. But it's got your charger, and it has these guys that I was talking about, plus some old school power adapters here. But what you're focused on is, well, it's even got a flashlight. How did I turn that thing on? Okay, I know. There's a lot of that. Okay, so this is it. This is basically the size of a laptop battery. It's a lithium-ion battery. And it has, at least on my end, it has an output, 2 outputs here, a 2 amp and a 1 amp. It has a spot for your jumper cable that goes in to this little guy right here. You plug in. So you'd start your car from that spot. And then over here on the back, output of 2.5 amp, 1 amp, and an input to charge. So this would be to like power like a computer, like a laptop. That kind of deal, and anything else you may have. And then you can turn it on and it'll tell you how well it's charged. And I charged this about 2 months ago, so it's still got a full 5 bars of charge. So this right here will start your vehicle should you need it. Now, you're not supposed to run your vehicle on it. So, for example, why would you run your vehicle on this? Well, let's say your alternator's dead. You've got no juice, right? And all you have is your battery. Well, if you run your car on your battery for more than, if you're lucky, you get 30 minutes down the road out of it, right? Well, if you plug this in, you may get an extra 30, but it's going to get really hot, and that's probably why they say don't do it. Now, it will shut down. It's got a built-in mechanism to prevent it from overheating and exploding or anything like that, but at least that might get you an extra, half an hour in travel distance. Worst case scenario, that's your alternator goes. If you ever wonder, well, how do you know if your alternator goes? Well, if you have your headlights on, they'll start to just slowly go dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, including your dash. If your alternator has, and that's if it's gone out and it's dead and the battery's taking over, what you're watching is the battery juice slowly drain. Now, if your alternator is starting to go out, you're going to see your dash lights bright, low, bright, low. And you might even see your headlights do the same thing. So that's how you know your alternator's starting to go out. When that happens, you're on borrowed time, so you need to find somewhere to get that repaired or fixed. But in a pinch, this little thing will do. And I can get that on Amazon, pretty much anywhere. There's different brands. Most of them are made from China anyways. Even stuff made in America is made in China, imported to America, then sold as American. So I don't know where this one came from, motor core, but it's worked fine regardless. So check that out. It's good just to have in your car, period. Not just in the wintertime, but any time of the year. All right, let me see if that model had a couple of more updates. And it did. Ironically, though, it's not much different than what we saw total-wise from the run before. It still has a solid 8 inches here in Oklahoma City, and it still has a good 10 inches out here on I-40 out in western Oklahoma, and a hot spot down near Ardmore and Wester there for that event as well. So just a good little total. I actually added a little bit more snow to Dallas-Fort Worth there, just a hair a bit more. So anyway, just throwing that out there. But I will not do a live at lunch tomorrow because I'm busy. I got some things I got to do. Appointment to be at, but I will do a live tomorrow evening around 9:15, and I might. It depends on how things go. Maybe I'll do a live before then, but otherwise, that's for sure. You'll see me tomorrow evening around 9:15. So make sure you got your notifications on. Otherwise, I will see you then. And as always, I want to thanks to Ferguson Roof Systems for sponsoring my live broadcasts. So Jamie Ferguson is an awesome dude, a great company. So if you need any roofing needs, he's got you covered. All right, well, with that, I am out. You guys have a great night, sleep well, and we'll see you tomorrow as round 2 moves in. Take care.